Would you introduce yourself for everyone who's listening and for the audience?
Yeah, so my name is Celeste Garcia, and I my career was at Microsoft, and what's been really fun is being sort of finding myself at the intersection of creative tech. And initially, I started writing a novel, which just was recently released, AI Baby, and that was over 3 years ago. And so, just even though it was a novel, it required a lot of research. It's speculative fiction, although it's shocking how much has come to fruition. I felt a lot of pressure to get the novel out.
Yeah, you just
And
launched.
pardon me?
You just launched your book, right?
Yes, March 24. So,
Mm.
then once I started really just going deep into AI, there'll be periods where you're not writing, whether it's in your editor, your agent's hands, or however, so I really just kept thinking about AI, and at some point I was, practically stopping people in the grocery store to talk about it. And so, my editor suggested, Substack, and then it was just really great to find the community of a lot of women, and thank you, Karen Smiley, that are really, really concerned about the ethics of AI. And so that's just how I've become so deeply involved in it.
Yeah, actually, the book started with your chapter, and as you know, it's like your chapter is not laying the framework, but it's very important because you are counters like the male-dominated narrative of AI history that it stated really well because it gave us like we are all 26 women like we'll follow your structure. So how do you see like working in Microsoft that the catalyst that it made you realize that the male dominated narrative in AI history is very, very important to discuss and actually to adjust? Because most of people are thinking that, especially in computer, it's done by men, all men, and there is no woman involved. And the first one who did it actually is Ada Lovelace. So, would you tell us about that?
Well, and certainly there is a disparity, and it's been there, it's just always existed. And so it was a concern when I was at Microsoft. And it's gotten a little better, but it's still only about 30% women in tech. And when you get to the executive level, it's only about 12%. So it is something that is gravely concerning. And the thing about AI is that because it is, it is the most seismic shift in technology that we've ever seen in the history of the world. And so right now these systems are being built, and when you are basically baking in the bias in data, both in gender
By
and racial bias, it's really these are, once these systems are trained, it's really locked and loaded. And, already people are really looking to their LLMs or the generative AI models as the truth for the questions that they're answering. And then once I started to just sort of think about that, and then, what was very interesting is as I write articles for Substack, I noticed that a lot of women were left out of the origin stories for, even, tech companies that, you just I mean, it's so male dominated. And, if you do a, if you just plug into, ChatGPT or whatever your generative AI model of choices, and say, top 10 influencers in AI, you'll get a list that is almost 100% men. Fei Fei Li might pop up. But again, so just if that origin is ignored, it's really going to limit how much women feel a part of this new technology. It's going to limit how many younger girls go into the field. And so I just think it's really important to look at not only current women, but if you look at the past women, and so when I was
Mhm.
researching for Everyday AI, and it was just shocking to me, the women who I'd never heard of, and really should be household names as far as I'm concerned.
I totally agree, especially that we are not, as a woman, we were taken simply like to fit a framework that we fit to certain jobs. But when it comes to thinking and computing and things like this, we were always set aside. And the truth says otherwise. Actually, most women contribute to computer science equally like men. I'm not gonna say more than men, but it's like with like tete or as you say in Mexico, cabeza cabeza. It's not more men and less women, but we were totally sidelined by
Yeah, I agree.
history, by culture, by many things. Yes. You mentioned in your chapter that Ada Lovelace, which actually she is the one who started in computer science, and she's a great figure actually. She's done a lot of things in physics and science and computer, and she mentions that no pretensions to originate anything. For her perception of computer, it cannot originate anything. But now we have LLMs model that can originate many things, and we are looking for AGI. How do you see the contract? Does her statement is still valid, or is it we are dealing with hyper marketing, or what do you think on this? What's your
Yeah, and first of all, I just, wanna give a and I mean, Ada Lovelace is
yeah?
quite famous. There she even has a day devoted to her, I believe in June.
I
Um,
think so.
and, we're actually just to give a plug to our next, Everyday um, AI Everywhere, volume 2, the goal is to release that, on Ada Lovelace Day. So, but I just wanna sort of give a little bit of background on her because
Sure.
she was so ahead of her time. So she really was the first to sort of build the first algorithm, and she realized that it wasn't just numbers, but symbols that could be related, and, communicated with, computers, and so but you have to think about that she was, um, forming these hypotheses 100 years before, like, a real computer came online, and so she was using a machine that was obviously, uh, pretty crude, but it was, in fact, a machine that was, predating, by many, many years, the, computers. So, what's so fascinating is that she postulated that computers could not originate anything, and it was just what was fed into the machine. And so, what's interesting is, that debate is still as, relevant today as it was, when she was sort of doing her research and, so there's and I mean, I think it's the jury is still out on that. There are, a really great example of where, AI is perhaps surpassing, the input that is put in by its creators was this AlphaGo, and it's a very famous, story where Lee Sedol, who was considered the preeminent AlphaGo player, went up against, AI, was it Google's, AlphaGo,
Yes,
and
no minors, right?
what shocked everyone is that, uh,
Mhm.
the AI came up with moves that had never been invented by humans, and then humans began to adopt, these moves, and so, looking at that, you would think, "Wow, AI is actually originating, these thoughts." But then if you look at the fact that AI is, it's fed a massive amount of data, by humans that is annotated by humans, and the systems and the algorithms are created by humans, and sort of the goals around it are created by humans. Um, and then obviously, like, there's still a huge debate. We don't even actually have a clear definition of what intelligence is in human intelligence. And so, if you're thinking about if it's based on creativity and lived experience and true origination of thought, then I would say that Ada Lovelace's theory still holds true.
Yeah, but from your what you just said is like if it's all by human, this is mean the bias and all the wrongs that it already all the wrong statement and wrong thing is as well is still embedded in the LLM currently we are using because the bias still exists. They are taking the data that like if you see from culture, like every culture will have a different version of of something, and now to unify it because it's we enter the American version, it's not going to imitate or it's not going to to look the same or similar to a different culture. The bias still exists, and I don't think no one is addressing it, but we see it because not only in the emotional intelligence, we see it, for example, if you want to do Iraq in Arabic language, because it's like a study center, it's very, very difficult because it's trained the model to use American grammars. So our grammar is totally the structure of sentence because we have annotation, we have it's totally different in structure. So the results, the output, always comes of the plural. It's not the correct ones despite you're giving him the correct data, but it's a training model. It's not getting it because grammatically he is using the American version, not the Arabic dialect of Saudi Arabia or Egypt or Morocco or like this. So the bias, it's you cannot see it in English version, but you will see it in Spanish, you will see it in Farsi, you will see it in I'm not saying Chinese because I'm sure they are advanced, but you will see it in many others any other language than English.
Well, and it's deeply concerning because, they're large language models. They're based on language. And it's deeply concerning in that there's really just a handful of tech conglomerates that because they've standardized on this big compute, big data paradigm, that it's only these tech conglomerates that have really, really deep pockets that can develop this technology. And certainly I think that's by design. And so they're all American companies, besides what's going on in China. And so, yeah, even the bias in the English language is deeply concerning because, of course, the data that they're scraping from these huge data sets like Lion or from the internet. I mean, think about how biased that data is. And so,
Yes.
then it's amplified as you get to, different languages, and I think about my father was Spanish, and it was his first language, and he would say something, a phrase in Spanish, and then my sisters and I would say, "Well, what does that mean?" And he would say, "Oh, mijitas, it doesn't really translate." And so you just
Exactly.
think about how much is lost in translation. And so
Yeah,
that is
because
where, you think about some of the, work that Timnit Gebru is doing, and where she's really an advocate of localized distributed AI. And so it's really important that uh, languages and to the cultural level, people are really developing their own language models and generative AI models.
yeah, I totally agree because some language like Spanish, French, Arabic, we use a lot of metaphor. It's not it literally translates something, but the meaning is totally something not what's crossing your head. Yeah.
Completely.
Yes, you understand. So, how do you see the importance of women like Dorothy, the women you mentioned in your chapter, like Grace Hopper, Radia Perlman, Dorothy Vulcan, those who master compiler, the network engineering, the language like Fortran, the calculation, how to from scratch, what is the importance you see them to remember them and actually to take heed from their work?
Well, I think what's so interesting is, these women have become my heroes. And, have to think about these women that were sort of the OGs of tech. And, you know, a lot of women, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, when computing was really just first coming online, women weren't even always allowed access to college, and when they did go to college or university, they were steered towards teaching, nursing, and home economics. And so for these women to have actually gone into technology in the early tech was something really remarkable. And it's interesting then that when there were so few of them, what an outsized contribution they had to laying the foundations. And, you think about Dorothy Vaughan, and some people are familiar with her story from the movie Hidden Figures, but that she was brought on to the precursor to NASA. It was eventually named NASA, as a human computer. Uh,
Yes, she was
and
Dorothy Vaughan, right?
yes, and then what I found really interesting, because then and I actually write a Substack for Karen Smiley's. She writes AI, and I have a um, a section called Her Story. And when I was writing about Dorothy, I try to relate it to sort of, what's going on right now and bring it, make it relevant. And what was interesting about her was she was like she invented the original tech pivot, because she was going from being a human computer, literally, to, as the first computers really were coming online, she realized that she needed not only to learn and train herself on the language, but she also brought her team along, and she was the first woman manager at NASA, and so then she spent a lot of time on her own learning it, and then she taught, the women who worked for her, and then they were all brought along instead of just being obsoleted. So, obviously, that metaphor is really true now, with AI and people sort of, learning how to reskill. So there's a lot to be learned from these women. Um
Exactly, and I hope you mentioned because lot of people are not aware of these women or their work, like Grace
Right.
Hopper as well, and Rhonda Perlman, and we are gonna come to Pai Lee because she is head to head, like we call them the godmother of AI, like
Yes.
Jeffrey Hinton. So Pai Lee, I saw you wrote an article about her, even when she writes about her. She mentioned that a big advocate about the data quality that it matters. And along with Christian Felbaum, or
Yes.
Felbaum, yes. How do you see data quality in LLM nowadays? Because you will see a lot of AI swap, a lot of repetition. Do you see, and we are giving a lot of prompts with wrong input. How do you see this will impact the data quality?
Can you repeat that?
Now, 5 recommend all and big advocate for the data quality that matter to enhance
Yes.
every
Yes.
LLM. And now we are all inputting a lot of prompt with wrong format and wrong way. And we will see lots of AI slop now with a lot of repetition of the same
Yes.
output. How do you see this will affect the data quality of LLM? Because it's training now with our new input, and it's most of it is not
Right.
any good quality.
Yeah, and that's such a good question, because and what's so interesting about Feifei is that she realized, I mean, she was so ahead of her time, because at the time it was hand done, and it was mostly about the algorithms, and it was a very, very limited data set. And she realized that if you could get enough high quality data, that you could actually, like, it completely changed the game for AI and its influence now, the systems that we're using today. Um, but I do think what's important to think about is that original data set that she built was very, very high quality data, and it was this crazy ambitious project. And her mentors just said she was flat out crazy for thinking she could do it. But she was really determined. And part of what's interesting about her story is that when she met Christian Fellbaum at Princeton in, I think it was 2007, um, it was two women sort of on the forefront of their discipline that really influenced each other. And so Christiane was a linguist. And so she had a data set called WordNet that
WordNet.
he was, it was really about the lexiconic, I don't actually know quite the word, um, that they were, she was looking at relationships between words, which is also interesting because,
The
that's a
first
lot,
network, nothing. Yeah, and that project is
how
teaching
large
the
language
first
models
nothing,
work. Um, but so then Feifei saw what Christiane was doing, and then, of course, her vision was so, actually much more ambitious, and so but she got graduate students, and, I mean, they were working day and night and to build this database, and they were, a lot of it was images that they were then, labeling and, building this huge data set. And then what's interesting, and again, where you think about women's roles, like, I mean, it's not funny, it's just rather telling that when she, had built this huge data set that was so impactful, and when she went to the largest conference, for, artificial intelligence, she didn't even get a presentation. They, relegated her to some corner of the Miami Convention Center, and she, had a couple posters and gave out logoed pens.
Yeah,
And
there's
it's
an attitude.
think about that she really was, they do
Beautiful.
call her the godmother of AI because
Yes.
her realization about, these, massive high quality data sets was really then what set in motion current modern AI. I mean, they were sort of going through what they termed as the AI winter before she came along. But I do think what the operative word is here is quality. And now, and I'm actually writing about this right now that the the big tech firms that are creating these generative AI models are basically just wholesale scraping data from the internet. And so,
Mhm.
I mean, we all know the quality of that data. I mean, it's rather astonishing. So, as the saying says, garbage in, garbage out. So, and then, of course, there are um, people who are hired at a pittance to label the data and prepare it, but, it's still just really low quality data, and then some of these databases like Lion that they're just feeding into it.
Exactly, and her point is extremely important if you would like to reach the AGI, because it's you don't need only quality, you need as well also the truth. This is the reality of this.
Exactly.
This data is true, and it's pure format, so you can use it, because how can you train it, especially in the physical, to be aware of what's happening if he doesn't know the quality of what he's seeing, or this is this or that. It will remove any blurry vision or anything that is going to give a doubt. But it's not. I hope they will take it, because the data quality and the truth of the data that is scraped is actually under question. Uh,
Yeah, and I think it's worth noting too with Feifei is that even though she's extremely smart technologist, that she really advocates for ethical AI and making sure that, AI is serving humans rather than the other way around. And, I mean, it brings me to a much larger point, which is a lot of the reason why women sort of currently in AI are often overlooked is because the same women that are developing the technology, or are in leadership, they're the ones raising the red flags about, the ethical concerns, whether it's the bias in data or the, extreme amount of resources that we're using in energy and water, or,
the inequality
the labor
altogether.
exploitation. So, I think because these women are the ones raising the red flag, and I mean, I've never heard, Sam Altman or Elon Musk or, any of the other or,
Stakeholders.
yeah, raise the red flags, Zuckerberg, about, the ethics. They do talk about the existential threat, which we can talk about a little bit more.
Yes,
Um, and so I do think that then these women are labeled as D cells, which is this really
anti-hype.
disparaging term that they're considered trying to decelerate progress and decelerate
They are hurdles.
the just the advancements, and it's just simply not true. I mean, these women have realized that if you're gonna actually develop good systems, you have to have the ethics built in, and if you don't build them in now, it's just gonna be too late.
I totally agree, especially, that every LLM model that already exists, Chinese or Americans, it's not neutral. There is always an imbalance that exists, and we don't see the weight because actually, so far we don't know how to explain it. There is no explainability of the output results. So, it's like, how do you see that if any company would like to apply an AI model, how to handle this imbalance? You can see it actually in the hiring, like the case of Microsoft that is going to be. It was actually Amazon that was totally racist against women or someone with black colors, that they will be pulled out and ruled out from any decision simply because inequality exists. So how do you help anyone to apply AI and adjust this imbalance?
Yeah, I mean, that is a real challenge, and I don't know if anybody has a really good answer right now. I think if you look to, women like Timnit Gebru, who,
Uh,
and we should discuss her story because it's very
yes,
interesting.
exactly. I wrote
Um,
about last week.
she is now, she has a organization called DARE, and, it's distributed AI, and, again, like, she's really, really advocating for, the
Policy make
communities
move.
themselves, creating, the systems, so
Mm.
that you don't have this built-in bias, but, yeah, it's I guess right now it's just really important to be aware of it, and just on, like, a very, sort of practical level, I mean, anytime and I mean, I use a lot of the generative AI models, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude, I always question the outputs and, you just cannot take it as true. And so, um, they are good, particularly Claude or, Google Notebook LM at citing
Mhm.
the sources. And, Google Notebook LM, I think, is really fantastic at finding deep research that doesn't always appear in some of the others, that are like the academic papers. So I think it's just really important to look at the sources and always question. And I mean, and sometimes it's really obvious.
It's
But, some of the out
Yes,
quite
Google
ridiculous.
has advantage because it has all the most of the search, and they have Google scholars that I think they list all the search all over the world. So they will have an edge to release exact or accurate data because of resources. That's true, but it's like yes, man in the loop. It's now is getting now all the company that is like already firing and would like to get AI dependent, they are going actually to lose either vision or something. They are gonna lose something, either vision, clarity, or direction because someone has to verify that the output is aligned with their own mission. Otherwise, they will generate something and it would approve, and it's done. So actually, this imbalance needs to be overseen by someone, not a computer or algorithm.
Yeah, and I mean that's a really good segue. And it's funny, I talk about Timnit Gebru a lot because I really, really admire her. And people may be familiar with her story. So she was hired at Google specifically to she was running along with a woman named Margaret Mitchell, um, a team that was supposedly supposed to be a watchdog internally and, look at, keep ethics in mind and do research. And what happened was she wrote a research paper, she authored it, that really exposed a lot of the bias, and not only the data, but in then how the algorithms are built. And Google didn't really like what she said, so she was fired. And so it's it's really a challenge. And right now, you see a lot of these companies. I know OpenAI has a team that is supposedly, looking out for ethics, but there's an inherent conflict of interest. And, obviously, Google, who was signing Gebru's paychecks, didn't like what she said and they terminated her. So she felt that the only way was to go outside of that system. But I think what's unfortunate is if you're inside, you're going to be able to address things, you know, before these products are released, and you're able to look at, analyze the data and the algorithms. And so I do think it would be nice if there was a way to, address it from within. But obviously, that story tells us that it's really not happening right now.
Actually, this will bring us to a very important question because we women are into details and men like the macro and micro. And this is actually a fight because we are most only women we are addressing what's the damage and what's happening right now present from the LLM because we are dealing with it, and men only thinking about how to avoid rogue AI, any something in the future. But how about what's their sideline? What's happening now? The damage that is doing it now, which is highlighted by mostly women, the present versus the future. And actually, maybe this is why she was sidelined or maybe silenced. Demet, I love her work. I've just seen one of her YouTube and how to talk about it. It's like this is already exists how to build an ethical, and they are silencing a lot of policymaker, and we don't have guardrail because the incentive is different. Their incentive now, most of LLM is triggered by stakeholders how to raise money. So the goal is different. So we are talking about how to use it and how to make something out of it. And for them, most of the big company, they think how to amass more money. So
Right.
this direction keep us apart. There is a huge gap. And this is why we don't listen to each other and we don't address each other problems.
Well, and I love the way Gabru puts it, and I wholeheartedly agree with her. So, what's really interesting is you see a real dichotomy about the men that are running these companies, and they really love talking about the existential threat of AI. And what's really and so Gebru says if you're able to anthropomorphize um, AI, you basically take responsibility away from yourself. So they are creating these systems, but they're saying that it's actually then these systems that could bring about catastrophe. And it also allows them when they're looking into the future, it allows them to not be taking responsibility for the present. And that's where you see the women saying, wait a minute, we need to build these systems with the ethics built in. So, and again, the unbiased data and so and unbiased algorithms and having more voices involved, not just, I mean, if you look at the group of men right now running it, it's a very homogenous group of people. And so we've got to have a diverse group of people that have input in this. And but what's really sort of counterintuitive is that you'd think, well, if you're building these systems, why would you say there's this existential threat? Um, and I'm not denying that there possibly could be, but what's interesting is it really is a marketing ploy for them, and it just brings attention whether they're talking about one day they're talking about the utopia and abundance it's gonna bring about, and then the next day they might be saying, I mean, I think Dario Amodei said there was like a 20% chance of an existential threat.
Rogue AI.
And so you're thinking, well, why are you doing what you're doing at breakneck speed? But they're basically saying, well, because of this, I'm the one that can fix it. So you got to go with my,
Yes, it's a totally hype. It's totally marketing. And actually, no one is addressing the governance, the ethics, the accountability, responsibility. It's always is like it's totally vague area, and it's gone as like who's going to be responsible if something went wrong? No one. And
right.
it's like no, everyone is pushing on your shoulder, my shoulder is like, and no one has it actually. So how do you see? Is like, do you see the current LLM can be conscious? Although we don't have a definition of conscious, but do you believe, or is it, do you see it as a marketing or hype term, conscious AI?
Again, that term, people can't even define it in the human brain, consciousness. So, um, I right now think that it really is just the algorithms and the data and the weights and the people that are developing it. with that said, I mean, it's obviously the technology is quite, um, spectacular, and there's always situations that are really shocking and surprising, and I'm actually right now writing a post, that this happened pretty recently, I think it was in March, that ByteDance created an app called Seed Dance, I think it's
Seed
called,
dance, yeah, seed
and
dance.
that you can upload a photo, and it can create the voice of a person, and we're talking not just when I first heard of it, I was like, "Oh, well, it's probably celebrities and all of their voices have been recorded," but it actually is, um, anyone, and what happened was is all of this data and video and imagery was fed into and voice was fed into, the training, the the AI was able to basically correlate facial structure, and there's aspects of how you're actually
Kinetic
your
movements.
physical appearance that affect the way your voice sounds.
Yeah.
And so they actually took it down because, um,
It should be
it
illegal.
actually really scared people. So, I mean, that's like crazy emergent behavior. And, but, was the AI making a conscious decision about that? No, I don't think so. Personally, I don't believe so. And then there's a lot of thought about the current systems, with these giant, the big massive data sets and, compute and sort of the brute force that, big tech really, really embraced. And sort of the big question and, of course, uh, I follow Gary Marcus, and, he really doesn't believe we're gonna get AGI with current systems. And what's crazy
Anything.
about that is just all the massive amount of money that's being plowed into these systems that, it could very easily be going in the wrong direction. So I don't believe that with LLMs, we're gonna get anywhere near um, consciousness in the
So
system.
Ada Lovelace would be correct when she say it has no pretensions to originate a thing, but it can be a tool to generate something, but not to originate. So let's hope so. But it's like I believe there is a lot of hype and marketing,
Yeah,
and the incentive is actually is money and
absolutely.
pleasing stakeholder. It's not about computing. If you see the last Yann Lequin is saying that most of LLM they are plateaued now. They are not going any
Yeah.
further. So whatever they are going to say, it's going to generate. It's actually a hyper marketing term, but it's still the same. And he's starting his new company to get a new different approach because now it's totally probabilistic. It's not deterministic, so it's limited in a way or another.
Yes.
And it failed many exams. Like if you see it, they didn't even pass the Turing test. Why not? It's just like so. I don't see it. The current one. It's good utility, a tool, but it's not gonna go any further than that. And I believe it's really damaging for our privacy because it's like you see how we had a problem with deepfake. Imagine now you have a tool that can generate your voice, mimic you, and we will lose trust. And losing trust actually is going to be very, very damaging to civilization and to society at whole because our interaction is going to be with fear, with tension, and it's going to cause an anxiety. So I always question: is it justified? It's like we need to correct it because we don't have no guardrail, no policymakers. They are silencing everyone now so they can get whatever they can, and the damage later
Yeah.
is like exactly what we did with climate change. Let's generate more product and do more industrial things, and we will deal with climate change later. And now we are dealing with climate change problem, and we don't have solution for them. And this is going to be again it's like history is repeating itself, and
Yes.
it's sad. It's like the people who are driving and steering the wheel for AI, they are not uh, they are not leaning into ethics. I'm not going to label them by something, but they are not leaning to ethics or
Yeah.
listening to what women say or even logic, like you see. Uh,
Well, I would say they're not really paragons of virtue. And obviously it's all driven by money,
Nice. Okay. Yeah, and
and the more
actually,
money they spend on these massive data centers that they're tiling the earth with, the more committed they are to this direction. And I think it's going to be really hard to unwind, even as more and more people are joining the Gary Marcus chorus that this is we're not even on the right path.
I think Sam Altman, I call him Scam Altman because he never aligned his words to what with his action. He always take it back. So he said, "I know," with certain ego that is like how people cannot see it. When he said, "I know some people will lose money," and it's like we know that more 90% will lose money. The only one will make money is you and your stakeholder, the trust. And it's really, I found it not only non-ethical, it's illegal what he's doing. Like
Well,
all this spin and you get no results. Like
the disparity of wealth that is being created is quite astonishing.
exactly. And people doesn't take advantage of what happened with IBM and Watson because they turn off Watson because at the end after billions has spent, but at least they recognize the problem. It's not aligned, the result is not actually what is desired, it's not accurate, so they turn it down after lots of billion, and they didn't say, oh, we have to keep going, pouring more money. They realize their mistakes and correct it. But this is what a company should do. Like with them, it's totally different. The competition between Dario and Sam Altman is like, for me, they are two faces of the same coin. They are both capitalist company. They are both serving their own agendas, and the money collecting to for inferiors. And they didn't even explain how they didn't even spend money on research to understand the explainability. How LLM or how the weight reached to that. No, it's not important. Let's produce more. Let's compute more. So it's the direction and the vision is vicious. This is why it's going to create more damage, and we need more women to talk. Not just women, we need more people to talk about ethics, how to protect even the next generation, the adolescents. We see bullying, we see lots of damage. We cannot wait till next. We will find the solution later. The solution is not going to come later. We can start at least to adjust it. To put a framework to say we cannot go that far to stop it on its own, but it's not. They are really their ambitions is really vicious, unfortunately, and controlled. Yes,
Yeah, I
W-
agree.
yes. You're writing a book about AI babies that you are making, mixing the sense of humor and about the advancement and what we are going to deal with AI. First of all, congratulations
Thank you.
for the launch. Yes. So why don't you tell us how you going to make the mix in this book?
Well, writing this novel was really fun, and like I said, it's what really started me on this journey of AI, and sometimes I likened it to, Joseph Conrad's The Heart of Darkness, where I was on that boat going down the river into the heart of darkness, and, but I think what's good about, it's fiction, is that it's it's really showing the humanity and how people will truly be affected by this technology that is permeating everything, and the very human decisions that will need to be made. And what's interesting is I deal a lot with the brain computer interfaces, BCIs, and when I started writing about it, it hadn't even really standardized on the language. Some people were calling it neural implants, and now it's really become BCIs. But I think for some people it might be their first introduction into some of these concepts. And I think when you're getting more to the heart of the emotional question and people can ask what would I do in that situation? What would I do if I really could get a brain computer interface that would exponentially make me smarter, more intelligent, so I could think at a genius level? I mean, would you do that? And so I think what's fun about fiction is it can just make it, more approachable, and of course, I've lost all perspective because I've been living and breathing AI now for quite a few years, and I so for some people, this will really be their first introduction into really a deeper dive, um, and and so it's been really rewarding and been, rewarding the feedback that I've gotten so far. So,
Yeah.
it's available on Amazon.
Yes.
AI Baby.
No, yes. It's called AI Baby, right? This is the book.
Yes.
I'm going to add the link of it. And I think it's going to be interesting to see because cinema and fiction and even books really stick with us because it leaves a metaphor that we can visualize. So congratulations, and
Thank you.
for everyone is like go for it. It's worth reading. I believe so. So what do you think of the difference either is between open source, for example, Meta launched one today, and the locked up model, which if a company would like to adopt a model, uh, forget about the Dario Modi that they say we are more safe and we are more secure, which is not true. What do you suggest is like, what is the benchmark or criteria to choose? Open source adoption or the cloud locked in version?
Yeah, and so I just saw a headline that, Meta released their latest version,
Yes.
and I
You
believe
start.
it's
Yes.
closed source, and they were originally they were one of the only ones going in the direction of open source. So, I think it's really telling, and I think, it's just become all about the competition, right? And, what's sad about the origins of AI was originally it was, in academia, and so people were all about sharing their discoveries, um just as the competition has heated up, they've just gone to this closed source system, and so, I think it's unfortunate, but, we'll see what happens. I think that the Chinese are doing some of theirs they're doing more, open source. So it'll
Yeah.
be interesting to see how that plays out, but I think right now it's definitely moving to closed source.
Yeah, for to generate more money for whatever they spend. You just the tap is going to be closed. If it doesn't generate money, the investor will stop. Is there is any difference between the Chinese model or the weights they are using and the American one? Like I'm sure you work with a lot of
Yeah, and I
American.
mean, I don't have a ton of expertise in that, but I do think what's very interesting is, when we were doing the chip embargo, the Chinese were forced to really innovate,
Mhm.
and, I think that, there could be another DeepSeek moment, right? So I think that, um so they because they didn't have this brute force compute from the giant NVIDIA chips, they were looking at more efficient, algorithms. So, again, that sort of remains to be seen, but I do think what's so shocking to me about tech and having come from a tech background is, the whole idea is innovation, and I think what's so shocking about the current, way that AI is playing out is that all the big tech companies have, standardized on this one idea that, with, big data and big compute, that they're gonna get to AGI, and I think it's just so dangerous, um, because and then, of course, all the money that they're putting into in placing these bets, and they could be dead wrong.
Yeah,
So
yeah, they hit a wall. Actually, if you listen to Gianluca, I had the chance to meet him in New York University, and I've been one of big follower with him. His talk that is like it's plateaued and it's not going anywhere. I believe him.
yeah, I do too.
Because actually, yes, it's not going anywhere. The Chinese are aware of it now, and the good thing about them, they are not driven by ego. They say, okay, let's stop it and move different direction, and working in parallel. Keep this one going on to see how it's going to go, and shift in parallel to see different scenario how things is going to move, because it's going to be seen even by companies that's going by cost deficiency. It's the cost is huge. It's like you see perplexity and you see all this computer and all generated. The API usage is going to get actually it can bankrupt lots of companies, especially if you're small. Um, it's going to be huge expense and it's not justified for the output.
Well, you hear the big tech talking about building a moat, and so, it's not shocking that they decided to focus, on big data and big compute because it gives them such an advantage because nobody else has that kind of cash flow. Um,
Exactly.
and so the Chinese have been a lot more innovative in their approaches.
Because they have been applying it immediately in government. They have been applied. You will see it in trains and transportation and education. They applied, and I already got a feedback on the results to improve it. We are still seeing who's going. We are using people to use it. Most of OpenAI and Dario. It's not enterprise that is giving them feedback. It's mostly people who are using generating content for Instagram and Reels and podcasts and things like that. It's not product per se to give it let's improve it. So it doesn't have this feedback here. And this is actually maybe the gap between the American and the Chinese version.
Yeah, and the big corporations are just busy trying to destroy each other.
That is another truth that you are dealing with when you are it's men world, and they are driven by power and money, and this is actually the problem, that we are not getting the proper usage of AI. What is your take about OpenClaw? Because it was a moment that shaped the moment. It's like a DeepSeek OpenClaw when it entered a hobbyist out of the blue and make a usage, and now they are all the models are trying to embed it because they see potential in it. So what's
Yeah,
your
and I
take?
think, um, you just have these moments where, and I mean, I think that that's actually part of the fun of this technology is that, you'll have these moments that surprises everyone. And, the people that are, you obviously are seeing a lot of innovation. I mean, I think that, it, I sort of diss on some of the, giant tech companies and the tech pros, but, if you take a step back, there is really, it's an exciting time for some incredible innovation. And then you see how the marketplace embraces it and then you get a real shift. So, I mean, again, we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, we will see lots of moment of this, especially now that AI doesn't have the model itself doesn't have a moat. It's going to be the usability of it, how to make something out of it, which is going to be the mode for now until it's becoming a feature by them. And they're going to lock you in because they are repeating the same what Microsoft did. Like, we are going to give you Windows for free, and now you're going to get Microsoft Office, and then they lock your enterprise data so you cannot move in and you have to pay. And I think Anthropic is doing this now. They are giving you, they closed, you cannot make a third party unless they approve it. So you are stuck with their decisions and what they approve or not. And once you are locked in, it will be very difficult to move your data. And it's not only about data, it's about actually the training model to be used to you. He get familiar with you. You're not going to start it from the scratch. So they are going to make it, and I find it very vicious to lock your emotional it's like attachment. They want you to be attached to he's trained to you, you have been talking to this chatbot, he knows you by now, so don't leave this emotional based on human. uh, but history is repeating it again after money, and I don't see his IPO is going to be successful for some reason. Him and OpenAI, I don't see it's going to be successful because it's not justified, neither the numbers or the results. Because of the waste of the inference and the computation and the cost is far greater the results.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I think it's really hard to predict what the markets do. I mean, I think that,
yeah,
there's a lot of, people do buy into the hype.
yes,
So, I mean,
unfortunately,
it's astonishing if you actually look at the real numbers. It's frightening, but I do think that, people are gonna, the markets are, it's a lot of sheep, right? That, and people don't wanna miss out, they get FOMO, so I don't know. That
Yeah,
that'll be
it's
interesting.
true because the concept of hit and run, let's cash now and do something else. It's selfish, but exists. We cannot we cannot deny its existence, and actually, it's a huge driver in decision making between investors. So, okay, if you would like to give a company or someone to how to master AI, to be aware of the biases in it, or to unmask the bias, or to handle it, is there is any tip you can give it to them?
Yeah, it's interesting you're asking about that. So, I think, you have to look at what the harms that the system could do when it's actually operating, with the way that it was intended to. And so I think that people really need to ask some hard questions. And that's where, that's where, it circles back to having, more diversity in the people who are actually designing the systems because, these decisions are being made right now as far as, the algorithms and the data that's being used.
Mm.
Um, and so, I mean, I'm hoping that there are some people that are holding themselves to certain standards. And yeah, but I think that so again, just asking those questions, and I just don't know if they're being asked right now.
Do you have any? What's your take about identity and agencies that has been taken from us under the name of innovation?
Um, well, that's a very big topic. I mean, if you're thinking about identity as far as just your physical identity that's being, that I mean, I'm actually writing about this right now that anybody who's ever posted anything online, um, or, um, or somebody else has posted on their behalf, it's all fair game, everybody's image. And so once all of those images are fed into the systems, we're all really losing control. So yeah, I would say we're losing control of our identities and we have no idea what it's actually going to be used for. And it's not just what it can use it for right now, it's what the capabilities will be in the future.
Yes, who's gonna the benefit of it is like we are totally left out by all our expertise. We help a lot in the system, and they are the ones gonna caching everything and even replacing us. So you will see is that you feed it a system so to make yourself obsolete. And it's this is the cycle is like I keep writing about it. Like you have to be aware and to be accountable for it, but it still is like this system. And don't tell me UBI because UBI is going to be a failure because UBI maybe works in the United States, but it's not going to work. We are 193 countries. It won't work with other countries. So it's like UBI. It's a very narrow-sided solution, and it cannot be the solution. I hope people will be aware of what they are doing, and we will need more people and not just like Gibro, to talk about not only ethics, guardrail, about protections for us, for our work. What's going to happen to us? No one talk about this, and I'm not talking about from human right perspective about our need to work, our need to produce, our need to be. It's like not to be told, not to be limited, not to be fitting in a mold to be certain criteria, otherwise you'll be labeled bad. Who's gonna label me bad if I am outside the box, or I want to have like what happened to Jibro again, that they fire her and cancel her paycheck simply because she said what he doesn't want to hear. So this is we need to address because the damage is it's growing and it's snowballing and it's going to hit hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's deeply concerning. And just to clarify, so UBI means universal basic income. And you hear a lot of the tech bros talking about it, but I've yet to hear somebody articulate how it's going to work. Is it going to be the big giant corporations that are making their billions? Is it going to be individuals? Is it going to be the government? And if everybody's out of work, like what is the tax base and how are they going to it just there's so many unanswered questions of how the practical nature of that. And again, is that gonna happen all over the world? I don't think so. So are we then just gonna do it in the United States, even though, the corporations that are
Absolutely.
building it are mostly in the United States, but it's affecting everybody in the world.
This
So, yeah, I have not really bought into that whole,
uh,
rhetoric, and it's killing me
yes.
that people aren't pushing back on that. I mean, I would love to, actually interview, the big proponents of UBI, and they're not even saying UBI. Now, Elon Musk is saying UHI, which is universal high income. And again, like, where is that gonna come from? So,
Yes.
I
Because
mean, I'm not
economy
gonna
is
trust
yes.
are we gonna trust Elon Musk to give us all a paycheck? I mean, I don't think so. So, yeah,
Yes.
it's very interesting, but I think
This
and
is
again, I mean, it just goes back to the broader point is that we need to push back in the ways that we can, and I mean, I think that a lot of us start to feel pretty helpless because, um, there's a very, very few people that are driving these decisions and the technologies that are affecting everyone, and, I call it non-consensual AI, and it's non-consensual in the way that our data is used, in the way that our images and voices are used, and then just the how it's being thrust upon us, in ways that, really aren't serving the higher good. And, the whole idea of the technology was originally supposed to be serving the higher good.
yes.
And people forget that OpenAI began as a nonprofit, to you know, benefit humanity and to be a watchdog, and, we saw how that went.
Yeah,
So
yes, I just wrote my last article about the novel Alexander Dumas, The Count of Monte Cristo. Because actually, every if you see each one's talking, it's like they're talking about his wound and he would like to revenge and he would like to win a race. But who told you we are in a race? Who puts this? Who puts you in this race? And where is the finishing line of this race? And is this revenge you are doing that to put everyone down so you can win this race that's only in your head? Is it justified? Because you are causing more and more damage to more people just to win a race only in your head. Is justified. And we shall see about it, but I believe that humans we always win at the end. Our collective will. This is what we need to collect, and we need to stand with one voice, unified, so we can stand up against them. Because there was a movement to unsubscribe. Actually, I joined this movement to unsubscribe because if they doesn't have any generated income, they are going to stop and start to listen to us. We don't want them to turn it down. No, we are in a moment we cannot go back. AI is here and it will stay and it's going to be used, but we need them to listen by hook, by crook, I don't know how, but we need them to listen to us and address our problems, our voices, our questions. Because yes, our system is not perfect in any most country having troubles, but this doesn't mean we need to reinvent the wheel. The fact that OpenAI is now and we are going to be limited to one or two models, either this or that, it's actually saddening because it will take us, it will strip us from our creativity of being human. It's like you need, it's like went to their Mac, you're gonna be, you're Claude or OpenAI. It's like, what? This is not the trajectory for humans to evolve. It's like I don't see it this way. We need to open more ways.
well, and it's encouraging, I think Substack is a really powerful platform because it's encouraging to see how many people are thinking about it, writing about it, the ethics and where's this gonna lead, and so, it's actually pretty astonishing the power of this platform to hear so many voices, but with that said, I mean, it can get discouraging because, it's just full steam ahead and, it's right now, it's completely unregulated and, I think most people would like to see some, safeguards and regulations in place. And I think we know that the big tech companies aren't going to regulate themselves. So,
We need to enforce policymakers. It's like they are silencing them with money as like and people once people lose trust, I think one cybersecurity attack or like when he I think it's not Dario Mori who said it, one cybersecurity attack or one loss or someone will be killed by AI, and then this is the moment where policymaker will intervene and say, "Oh, we need to take actions." But now they say, "Okay, let's wait to see. Let's wait to see." But wait until when? Like
well,
we
and it's
have
unfortunate if it comes to that. I actually have a heartening positive story. I just recently heard a friend of mine, her daughter, who is, I think she's about 15 or 16, she had an assignment in school, and the assignment was to use, ChatGPT or one of the generative AI models, and she declined the assignment because she's really concerned about the um, the impact on the environment of these models. And
gotta send
so
her.
I just thought, wow,
Wow,
maybe it will be this next generation that is really
yes,
thinking about that. And
like
so
Greta.
again, like that is a small protest, but I also just think that that was really powerful.
Yes, it's gonna be. We need only one ripple effect, one stone in the water, and we are a mimicry society. So, like Greta Thunberg, she starts saying no, and many people follow her, and a lot of people admire her work and the way she stand up. I hope this parent will need to teach children to have identity, to have a voice, and think for themselves. Like I will congratulate her mom for raising someone like that. Now it's not gonna be easy to be, the black sheep, the one who's outcasted, but we need to start, right?
Well, and that's, I think that that's actually a really good example is the environmental costs and how much people didn't originally realize,
Yeah,
the toll that it was taking and that it wasn't really talked about initially. I think one of the first stories was broken in the, Washington Post around 2023 and how and of course, these data centers that are being built in communities that are struggling. And the example in the Washington Post was a community where they were going to take their coal burning um, plant offline. And then I think it was Meta that came in, built a giant data center, and then they kept that coal burning plant, they kept it going.
going.
Um, and so initially, I mean, it's interesting because you think about everything digital, and so people tend to think that, oh, it's efficient and it like seems like it would be clean, right? But um it's it's definitely they're definitely not using clean energy. I mean, it's a mix, right? But there is, and then you think about the centers, there's a lot of data centers being built in Indonesia, and their primary source of fuel there is coal. So, we all have the same atmosphere and air that we're breathing. So, I do think if you just think about that one example, how much awareness was built over, just a couple years, as people started writing and talking about it. And now you are having communities that are protesting and pushing back about these million square foot data centers that are not only just, sucking up all the energy and it's affecting energy prices for the community that can't afford it, but it's also just a blight the countryside. And I mean, and you talk about the real AI accelerant um, individuals, and they literally talk about timing the earth with data centers. It's really astonishing.
It's one of the quiet topic. I I dig into it sometimes, but it's like when the water, the electricity, and even the talking about going to the moon, and it's actually maybe on the paper it looks promising, but in reality, I'm not sure how things is going to go because conceptually you can think of something, but when you go to practicality, it's going to be like it's gonna get you down. It's gonna take you to uh, over the cliff
Right, so
immediately.
once we've tiled the Earth with data centers, we'll tile the moon with data centers.
Exactly. It's like we didn't master the moon yet. It's like how you are going to go and how you're gonna get the vector back the data, like to receive it. But how can you secure it? Because it's going to be open to everyone with satellites. They can extract it. How can you keep securing a vector of the data one? Here you're using cable that you know this cable holding my data and it's encrypted. But outside, like you will see it's missing a lot of it's good as a science fiction. It can be perfect for cinema and Hollywood, but in reality it's not worth the cost. It's not worth anything. It's going to be a big failure because we don't master physics. It's like it's missing one component, one of its pillar, the physics and actually the universe. We are not fully aware of how it's functions, and what our understanding doesn't mean our we are capable of tweaking it or moving it in our way or our direction. It's like end of the day, universe will decide. It's not us. They have more power than us. So you will see lots of just for marketing, get more money, and Elon Musk is famous of selling tomorrow, and he never delivered any of his promises, and people still believe in him. And he's for me, it's totally fascinating. It's like he's hypnotizing people when he talks, selling science fiction, and so far he never delivered one of his promises. None,
Mhm.
and people still believe. So this is what we are living today with this mentality. So let's wrap up. So I don't want to take because I know you're busy and you have something to do. So what is the one thing that you want your people to take from chapter one and from your chapter, the message you want to deliver abroad to everyone?
Well, I think that, once I started researching, I was just so surprised about these women who were the early pioneers of technology and really so prescient that, not just tech, but foreseeing, like Ada Lovelace, the future, which has become AI. Um, and so, really elevating these women and their stories and, their remarkable contribution. And then, of course, really looking at women, in the present day that are really, contributing and, hopefully inspiring, women to go into tech. There's a really astonishing, statistic from the World Economic Forum that, achieving full gender parity in industries worldwide, it'll take 120 years. So, if we could shorten that timeline, I think it would be really great.
Yeah.
Um, but and then just acknowledging these women that were very brave and always outnumbered and often discounted. And then, the women right now that are the main voices in ethical AI. And so, it would be nice for it to be, and I know there are men doing this too, and just broadening
Please,
and
yeah.
really demanding the ethics because it it's if it's not done now, it's gonna be a huge problem, like, it really needs to be, baked into the systems.
Yes.
So
So
and then just feeling I think it can get overwhelming, but, I think there are a lot of obviously a lot of positives and good that will come of this, so just remembering that and that we're all playing a part.
yes, we cannot be outcasted or left behind. So where people should find you in your newsletter, LinkedIn or Substack?
Yeah, so my Substack is Celeste Garcia Getting Real About AI, and my TikTok is Getting Real About AI, and um, my Instagram is Celeste Garcia. I have to remember all these things. Um, and then you can find me on LinkedIn at Celeste Garcia Ramberg. That's a mouthful, so
I will
my
add that
writer
one.
name, I'm using my original surname. And then my book, AI Baby. He is
Yes.
available on Amazon. So thank you so much, Farida. It was really great
No.
talking with you.
Yes, thank you so much for your time and actually for your insight. And hopefully, we will make a difference because people like you and many others on Substack we are advocating for the right thing, for ethics, for governance, for policymakers to move. We need our voice we need to keep talking. We cannot be silent. We should keep talking about it until they take account of what we are saying. So
Absolutely. Thank you so
yeah,
much.
thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye bye. Thank you, everyone.